spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose, I love comic books, I love talking about them, I love sharing them with you. Follow me on social media, I have the links to where I'm at in the description below. I also have a link to these two stories via the Marvel Wiki, where you can kind of take a look at what's happened before and what's happened after and all that if you'd like. We're only covering 2 issues. We're going to be looking at Amazing Spider-Man's 39 and 40 from 1966. So, this is John Romita's first issue as regular Spider-Man penciler. And it's got an iconic cover here. I have 2 versions of this issue. No, I do not have the original on either one. I have the Marvel Tales reprints, and I also have the Epic collection. I've been getting those because I think that it's really cool. They've been kind of reprinting everything in order, so it's a great way to kind of catch up. So the cover's iconic here. You can see, just like they do with Captain America, he's actually wearing armor, but it looks, there's scales in there, but it's actually little, just like they did with Captain America. So very iconic cover. So the Green Goblin at this time was a secret. Nobody knew who he was. So we start here, but he's telling me that, everyone's sort of forgotten about him, and now's the perfect time to get revenge. And so Stan Lee does the script with John Romita as the penciler. And this Mickey Demio is actually the ink. So he hates Spider-Man, and he is going to destroy him. And as you can see, they're covering him up, so nobody knows who the Green Goblin is at this time. So before he destroys Spider-Man, he wants to toy with him. So, and then at the very end, he will reveal himself to him and finish him off. And then he's kind of talking to the reader as to how his weapons have been updated. So it's sort of where we're at here, or what's kind of going on. So he hopes to also, unmask him and be victorious. At that same time, then, of course, we got Spider-Man swinging across the city. So Spider-Man is complaining that he is getting some kind of cold, and he's going to stop at one of the doctors to take a look. It looks like a Dr. Bromwell. And he sneaks into the maintenance closet, or what they call the broom closet. And the custodian is like, "What? There was nobody in there." And Peter was like, "Oh, I thought it was the waiting room." So when he gets in there, he tells the nurse that he's not feeling well. He doesn't have an appointment. And she says, well, he's free at the moment. So he goes in to see the doctor. The doctor, of course, tells him he does have a cold. Oh, I must have accidentally gone backwards. He does have a cold, and getting some antihistamine and a B12 shot. But he does want to talk to Peter about Aunt May. And he tells him that since the surgery, there was a surgery that was done in the prior issues, and again, there's a link to in the description below, where to the Marvel Wiki and the Spider-Man this issue, and you can kind of go back and back through the earlier issues and kind of see what's been going on. Anyway, he's telling Peter that in her condition, she can't have any sudden shocks, excitements, and it could prove fatal. And it's a good thing that they both have quiet lives. Of course, Peter is thinking about his aunt, and he does have to go back to, he's in college now, so he's worried about her because she's she's been the person that's raised him. So he goes. Now he's at the university, and that is Gwen Stacy and Flash Thompson there. Peter once again is ignoring them because he's thinking about his aunt, and then Norman Osborn is dropping off his son at school, Harry. Um, like I said, everyone's in college now. So Harry asks Norman what's wrong, and he's like, "Did you want a ride or a speech?" And um, Norman, of course, is angry at his kid. It says it costs a fortune to keep him in school, so to make sure he does great. And Harry realizes that no matter what he does, everything just seems to, nothing he does is good enough for him. Of course, now Harry's ignoring everybody, and Flash says, whatever Peter had must be contagious, because now Harry's acting the same way too." Peter asks him what's wrong, and Harry snaps at him, but then he apologizes for it. Harry and Flash and Gwen are actually bits of a little bit of bullies toward Peter, although maybe not Gwen so much, but definitely Harry and Flash. Harry tells Peter that Norman and him actually used to be friends, but then a few years ago he started to change. Peter lets him know that he's an orphan, and Gwen is impressed that those two are talking. And Flash, of course, thinks the same kind of thoughts that he always does. So eventually, Peter changes back to Spider-Man as web swinging. He's feeling better because he likes that freedom, sees some kind of commotion, so he's going to be able to take some pictures to sell to Jonah. And there's these guys here holding up all these people here on and Spider-Man comes through and knocks them down and starts fighting them. And so he overwhelms them pretty good. Even when they kind of get on top of him, he's able to dismiss them. Although he does mention that he's kind of got a foggy head and wished he had another allergy pill. And this guy kind of gets one over on him. So he manages to overcome it. Is able to evade that guy's bullet, and then is able to web him. So, and aims at the other ones with his webbing, kind of to make him get stuck here. I love the mom trying to keep that kid from watching the violence, and he's like, I see more violence on kiddie TV shows. So all the hostages manage to get away on the elevator, and Spider-Man's going to continue to fight. And of course, from behind, someone's gonna try and get him, but his spider sense warned him, so he elbows him and punches him. So, as I mentioned, this is John Romita's first run or first issue as the penciler, and you can see a lot of Steve Ditko. Prior to this, only Steve Ditko had really drawn Spider-Man, so he is very, very Steve Ditko-ish here. And so, and that guy here has some kind of grenade, but it's not a ordinary grenade. There is a gas in there. And of course, the Green Goblin had arranged all this. He'd been watching from afar using his glider. So the gas is meant to cloud his spider sense. The Goblin thinks now he'll be able to get the upper hand. So Spider-Man's able to recover, but the robbers here think that nothing happened. Of course, the whole purpose of that thing was to get rid of the spider sense. It wasn't really meant to do anything else. And he manages to take down the robbers and, of course, takes pictures for the Daily Bugle. The police finally arrive. And Spider-Man goes and sort of runs away. They always try to catch him, but they never do. So he goes and gets his clothes and changes back into Peter. The Goblin is watching him, but from behind. He doesn't know of at this time who he is either. While Peter changes his clothes, and he's saying he feels something's wrong, but he can't quite tell what what what's going on. And the Goblin, of course, continues to watch, thinking that he'll eventually go home. He'll be able to tell who he is. Peter's saying he feels very jittery, and the last time was that he felt this was in Spider-Man number 37, and I'll let you look at the like I said, in the description below is a link, and you can, and the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 is in there, and you can look at number 37. But of course, the Goblin keeps following him and sees that he's going into the Daily Bugle, not home, but then he decides he can afford to wait for him. So this is Ned Leeds here, and Peter wants to avoid him because he doesn't want to get into a fight about Betty, and he kind of walks, trying not to make any eye contact. Ned sees him and does want to apologize, which Peter thinks is strange that Harry first apologized and now Ned. So he says Jameson will probably blow him a kiss. Peter says, don't worry about it. It's his fault as much as Ned's. He tells him that he's out of the race and he is not pursuing any relationship with Betty anymore, because Ned, of course, is interested in Betty. So he walks through, and of course he's interrupted by Jameson, who says this isn't a hangout. If he doesn't have pictures to get lost, he says he does have pictures of the Spider-Man getting those criminals up in that lookout tower, in that lookout building. And he says he'll send him a check next week. And Peter says, it's okay, I'll keep them till then. And of course, Jameson's like, nah, you're not going to hold me hostage. You can have them. He says, that's fine. I'll take them to the Globe. They pay more than you. And he's like, the Globe won't pay it, but I don't want you to be, I like you, so I don't want you to have to have them tell you no. So he, of course, does pay him for the pictures. So he tells him, you're not a photographer, you're a horse thief. So Peter's happy he got paid, and he's happy, because he's gonna be able to contribute. And of course, the Green Goblin was still waiting for him. So he was using a device that allowed him to hear, and he knows his name is Peter Parker. And he's home, and he has a feeling that there's someone nearby, but of course the spider sense isn't working, and I almost said the Hobgoblin. The Green Goblin says you don't need to go inside. He just have to drag him. So he, of course, recognizes the voice and lets him know that he knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So Peter doesn't know how he knows, but he knows that Aunt May can't see him because of her condition, so he's doing everything he can. He's gonna shoot him with his web shooter, but realizes he doesn't have his costume underneath, so he can't snare him with his web, and he uses a smoke to bring him down. And inside is Aunt May, who hears stuff, but then she can't see anything, of course, because it's all smoky outside, and she thinks it's a fog. So Peter gets a little bit high up here, and the goblin's coming toward him. So the two kind of have a brief fight here, and the goblin tells him that he's basically helpless. The goblin throws like a not a I almost said a batarang like Batman, but a boomerang. We'll just call it a boomerang. But he misses it and then launches himself toward the goblin. Of course, the goblin zaps him. The zap disorients him, and he hits himself on the floor. So now he's unconscious. The goblin, of course, ties him up and takes him out. So he's taking him to his hideout, and inside the hideout here, Peter thinks he can get loose, but it may not. He might not have too much time here. He thinks his best option is to stall for time. The goblin, of course, Peter's taunting him because he knows he'll lose his temper. He tells him that he's never beaten him. It was just accidents how he was able to beat him before. Then he says he's got one final surprise for you. He's gonna finally reveal who the Green Goblin is, and it's of course Norman Osborn, who at this time no one knew who he was. So Peter, of course, knows that it's Harry Osborn's dad. So we're now going to go to issue 40. So here's the cover. Not as iconic as the cover to the previous issue, but good cover nonetheless. And so we basically get a short little recap of the previous issue. The goblin, of course, tells him this is the last face he'll ever see. So he says it should have known that it was him. Anyone who'd have a son like Harry, and of course the goblin's like, my son, asking him, and then here's the credits. So upon learning that Peter knows who Harry is, he really has to make sure to kill him because he doesn't want Harry to know that he's really the Green Goblin. Peter says that he also fears, in his mind he's saying he has the same fear about Harry learning about him as he does Aunt May knowing Peter's Spider-Man. And again, we now go to where Norma's trying to think of an appropriate way to kill him. Peter mentions Harry again, just to kind of rattle him. And so he keeps just egging him on, but decides he better bring it down a notch. He doesn't, because Osborn may end up losing it. And he's gonna tell him why he became the Green Goblin. Of course, Peter says, it doesn't matter, you probably lost an election. And he's you can see the beads of sweat, and he's like, if I tell you, then you'll understand. He said it happened shortly after his wife, Harry's mom, died. So he, being Norman, was a bit of a workaholic, and he just wanted to work, and he kind of neglected Harry, never had time for him. He just wanted to work hard in order to be successful. And then his business partner, he had him removed because he had taken some money from the account, and Norman didn't care. Looks like Tommy Lee Jones here. Very Tommy Lee Jones. Anyway, he's already called the police. And it says here, Amazing Spider-Man number 37. So you can check it out in the description below. Anyway, he told him he would press charges in the morning after he called the police. And Peter realizes that's why he had Strom had tried to kill him, because he swore he'd get even after he got out of jail. So he wants to keep him talking. He says, "You were wealthy, successful, and achieved, and you still haven't told me why he became the Green Goblin." Of course, he's struggling to get out. He had seen a strange formula. Can't talk. A strange formula. He thought if he patented, he could sell it for some more money. And Harry's said that they had a school night, parent teacher, and Norman wants nothing to do with it. He said just to go, and he'll make it if he can. And the formula, as he's building it here, or as he's making it, turns green and explodes. And as they're operating him, they said there was damage deep inside the brain that they couldn't reach, but he'll be fine. And Harry comes in all solemn, and Norman's really mean now, telling him, wondering how someone like him had a sniveling weakling of a son like him, that they haven't done anything. He's just a spineless jellyfish like everyone else. So he's smarter, stronger, and he makes a costume. And of course, he picks green because he says that's his favorite color. And that's when the Green Goblin, and his first victim, of course, was going to be the Amazing Spider-Man, as he likes to say. So just kind of looking at this panel here. Says he chose him because he knew that he would be respected if he killed someone like him. But Peter, of course, replies saying, "Well, sorry that I've been so hard to kill." So, and says he's been planning this for months. So he puts on his mask and says that will be the last face he sees, but now he will have to sit there and wonder how he'll, and at what instant he'll die. Kind of toying with him, of course. Peter feels terrible about Aunt May and Betty, while the Goblin's telling him he needs to beg for mercy. And Aunt May's neighbor, Mrs. Watson, I don't forgot her first name, but she's MJ's aunt. Aunt May's worried because Peter hasn't shown up, and it's late, and he hasn't called. And Mrs. Watson tells her that she needs to calm down because of her condition, and says maybe he's at Jameson's office. And why doesn't she call? Because the building stays open all night. So she said, Anna Watson. So she says, "Oh, please, Anna, you call. I'm too nervous." It's very funny when you read Spider-Man now and you see how empowered Aunt May is, and you look how frail. And I mean, talk about a character that has really, been changed and altered. Spider-Man is still in his heart the same kind of character, but Aunt May goes from oh shucks to being a little bit more less old, actually. They've really fixed her up quite a bit. So she was like a grandma here, and I think that was they called the Bugle, and JJ actually answers the phone. He says Peter's not there. He's probably stealing hubcaps. Not there. Empty-headed teenagers are all alike. So if you're a younger viewer listening to this, just know the old have complained about the young forever. It's the circle of life. This issue is from before I was even born, and it's just funny that I acted this way toward my parents, and now my daughter acts this way. It's just the way of life. So here he says he's gonna wants to write an editorial about how the younger generation is going to the dogs, and then he'll do one about the older generation too. he might as well blast everyone. So this is pretty funny as he slams the phone. And Anna Watson tries to console her, um, and says she should call the doctor, because she's just too worried. And so we're at the Penn Station here, and Betty's running away. She quit. She quit the job because she's having issues with both Peter and Ned. She doesn't know who to go with, and Peter. It's kind of funny because Peter kind of bowed out, but she still has feelings for him, and she has a thing against Spider-Man because the danger, uncertainty, and fear. That's he brings out those feelings in her. So she wonders she should go back because she knows that she'll get the job back, but is that the right course? And so she's kind of thinking about a little bit of everything, and so it's all aboard here. So you don't know whether she's leaving or going into the train at this time. So then we pick up once again with the Goblin and Spider-Man. Peter has his eyes closed to try to continue to goad Norman. Peter tells him he beat him in the past, he'll keep beating it, and then he's like, no, and then he says he'll prove it to him. So he uses this device here called the retroscope to show his Norman's memories, and of course, um, these were the enforcers that he beat, and Norman had sent them to him, and he beat them. He says no, or Peter's like, "Yep, that was your first defeat." He says, "Nope, you beat them, not me." And then the second time, which is in Spider-Man 17, he was saved by the Green Goblin, so he made uh, a getaway, and of course, Spider-Man goading him, telling him he's a coward and stuff. And so we just kind of going back and forth to all the times that they had met here in Amazing Spider-Man 27 and so forth and so forth. So the Goblin just continues to talk. So Peter's struggling under there, and the Goblin decides to release him because he doesn't want to beat him um, just tied up. He wants to beat him. Um, and so he puts on his mask, and off they go. And we get some banter between the two of them. A lot of dialogue. So one thing Stan Lee did really well is put in dialogue. That man just loved his dialogue. So right now it's basically just banter as the two of them. Um, Peter kind of gets the upper hand, but then the Goblin gets the upper hand. So he tries to do his little electricity thing, but he misses Peter, and so throws things at him. He's just doing everything he can to stop Spider-Man, but Spider-Man just keeps going after him. Eventually, though, he does hit him hard enough, and he falls on the floor, and he can't remember, so he gets amnesia. It's an old trope. Once he hit his head, he can't remember, and so Peter uses that to his advantage, and notices that he doesn't remember being the Goblin, so he helps him change the clothes and then burns the costume. And when people arrive, they take Osborn, and then he just gets away and wants to get back to Aunt May. Goes inside and changes. And of course, he gets there, and they said that Aunt May is now asleep and under mild sedation, and he says that he told Peter that she can't have too much of this, and that the next time, it may not be so lucky. So when he awakes, or when she awakes, he tells her, oh, that he was at a friend's house studying and just forgot the time. And so she, of course, just loves taking care of him, and so we end with her giving him some soup, and then of course Harry is happy to get his dad back, and so we kind of just end the issue like that. So, all right. So, again, this was Amazing Spider-Man number 39 and 40 from 1966. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.